Welcome back. Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker topping a new poll among Republican voters in Iowa, the site of the first 2016 presidential caucus. Walker gained 17% of the vote in a Des Moines Register poll, followed by Kentucky Senator Rand Paul and Dr. Ben Carson. I spoke with Governor Walker to learn when he will announce that run. Governor, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me on.
You have been traveling throughout the country. Back in January, you filed what's called a 527. You launched a website, and your 527 is called American Revival. But you've yet to throw your hat officially in the ring for the presidential election. What's taking you so long? Why haven't you announced yet?
Yeah. Well, as governor of Wisconsin, at least in our state, our budget comes out every 2 years. State budget will be done at the end of June, and it's still my obligation to see through a positive budget that hopefully, for the 5th and the 6th year in a row, will actually lower property taxes in our state from even where they were before I took office in 2010. But I want to have a good budget that continues to provide reform in our state, and shortly after, we'll be announcing our intentions to the people of this great country.
So that's in the next month?
Yeah.
This past week, we got another dismal GDP number. The first quarter, in fact, actually contracted. It was negative. We've got the jobs number coming out this upcoming Friday. How do you move the needle on growth and jobs in America?
Well, I think you need to act quickly. I think the next president can't just be, it's not enough just to have a Republican. Hopefully we have a Republican House should be sustained. Hopefully we'll have a Republican United States Senate. But it's not enough just to have Republicans in charge. You need to have someone who's ready to reform on day one. It's something we did 4 years ago. We took on the reforms right away, I think in the first 45 to 100 days. We've got to push a big, bold, aggressive agenda when it comes to growth there. Not just about austerity, but really about growth, about understanding the people of this country create jobs, not the government. You know, this president, people like Hillary Clinton, they tend to think you grow the economy by growing Washington. Last year, 6 of the top 10 wealthiest counties in America were in or around Washington, D.C. I think we got to grow the economy in cities and towns and villages all across the U.S. The way to do it is a lower tax burden, lower marginal tax rates, make American employers, job creators competitive again with a rate that's competitive around the world so that more American jobs can come back from overseas. Repeal Obamacare and put patients back in charge again, dramatically rein in regulations, sending many of those responsibilities back to the states and ultimately to the people, using the abundance of all the energy supplies we have here in this country and on this continent, and having a level playing field when it comes to trade globally. I think all those things could get us from the very stagnant growth we've been seeing the last few months to a growth pattern I think is realistic to get us to almost 4.5% growth.
All right, let me move on to foreign policy, because this is an area where your skeptics out there will say you're not up to the job in terms of foreign policy, in terms of your knowledge, your leadership when it comes to some of these big issues out there. I'll start with the question of the day that everyone is asking, and that is the Iraq War. If you knew what you know today, would you have gone into Iraq the way President Bush did?
Well, just one thing, a qualifier to begin with, I'd point out that in the overall issue of foreign policy, I'd say in my lifetime, the most impressive president when it came to foreign policy was a governor from California. In my lifetime, the worst president of foreign policy was a freshman senator from Illinois. So being a senator or governor isn't as important as leadership. In this case, when it comes to leadership, I'll just flat out tell you, I think that any president, regardless of party, would have made a similar decision to what the president did at the time with the information that was available. Hillary Clinton, member of the United States Senate at the time, voted for an authorizing resolution because she and other members of both parties had the same levels or the same type of information that President Bush had at the time. So I can't fault them for that decision, knowing what they thought they knew at the time. Where I do think he deserves credit is a few years later, when the surge took place. I think that was the right move and got us on the right track. And I think the ultimate important question today is to ask people like Hillary Clinton and President Obama, why, when you knew years ago the same thing you know today, and that is that there are serious military concerns about leaving Iraq too soon, particularly after we had achieved victory and we had peace sustained there in the region, why did they pull out?
Why are we having these discussions? What should be done in terms of the potential of a deal with Iran?
On day one, January 20th of 2017, I'd pull back from that faulty deal. I think it's a big error. I'd be willing to negotiate with Iran, but on our terms, not on their terms. To me, it's real simple. Our terms would be you need to dismantle your illicit nuclear infrastructure. Secondly, you need to disclose fully and provide full transparency, including immediate ability to inspect, particularly if they're underground fortified facilities. And then they need to deal with others in the region. That means recognizing that Israel has a right to exist as a Jewish state, and that they're going to pull out of what you alluded to. I mean, Iran has got their hands involved, whether it's with the Houthis in Yemen or what we see in Syria or elsewhere around the world in terrorist or terrorist-related activities. They need to get out of that, and they need to get rid of the intercontinental ballistic missiles, not only those targeted at Israel, but those potentially targeted at the United States. Those are the terms of our deal, and if they don't, we need to pull back on that deal, put sanctions back in place from America, and encourage our allies around the world to do the same.
I feel like in some corners of the country, people are feeling like the GOP or the extreme right of the GOP does not understand how America has changed. I mean, you've talked about how you've gone to a friend's gay reception, but you didn't go to the wedding. Do you think that the GOP in general, or certainly all the way to the right, are missing how America has changed and what America feels about as far as their freedoms? Do you think America has changed in the last 10 years?
I still believe that marriage is between a man and a woman. I voted for that in the legislature, voted for it in the Constitution, defend it in our state. As you mentioned, I had a family member on my wife's side, one of our great cousins that we love, and we went there even though we have a belief of what legally constitutes marriage. We were there because we love her. We love her, and we love the whole family. And so, of course, we're going to be there. In terms of this issue, though, it's one of those where it's interesting. Going forward, the next president's going to have very limited impact on this. If the courts rule in the coming days, they're going to rule one of two ways. They're either going to say that marriage marriage is defined as something the states should be doing, or they're going to say that marriage amongst same-sex couples is legal. The only other alternative to that is a constitutional amendment, which is something that doesn't go through the legislative process. It's something the states and the Congress have to act on. So it's really not going to be an issue in the next presidential election. But I don't shy away. I think even if people disagree with me, even if some people have changed in that regard, people deserve to know what my opinion is on that, same way that I'm pro-life. But I think in the end, what they want to know is what are you going to do to lead America forward, not to pit one group of Americans versus another. And I think we got a pretty good story to tell.
Governor, good to have you on the show today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Governor Scott Walker.